Sherry Bars with Community and Development Services for Wheatland County. I'll call this meeting of the Municipal Planning Commission to order at 9 a.m. As per the Municipal Planning Commission bylaw 2018-11, we are to appoint a chair and vice chair at the first meeting following the organizational meeting of council. This meeting may be recorded and uploaded to social media. We are conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council and committee meetings can take place in person, and council chambers is open to members of the public at this time. Everyone has the right to be present at council and committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the Municipal Government Act, Section 198. As per Municipal Planning Commission Policy 7.13, members of the public are not permitted to speak unless the commission gives approval to do so. If some members are not present in person, we are conducting a hybrid meeting with some members in council chambers and some members connecting virtually. We will conduct a roll call. So I'll start with Commissioner Shannon Laprise.
I'm here.
Commissioner Donna Bigger.
Here.
Commissioner Tom Eichert.
Present.
Commissioner Amber Link.
Good morning, everyone.
Commissioner Scott Klassen.
I'm here.
Commissioner Glenn Kester.
Present.
And Commissioner Scott Larson. Rick, sorry. I apologize. So Commissioner Rick Larson. Yes. Oh, sorry. Voting procedure for this meeting will be as follows. Should there be more than one nomination for the chair or vice chair position, a secret ballot will be taken with the candidate receiving the majority of the votes declared successful for this position. In the case where a clear majority is not successful in the first vote, then the voting would continue on first and second choice only, and the third and subsequent parties would be eliminated. This process would continue until a clear majority is successful. Any objections to the voting procedure? I see none. So I'd like to call for nominations for the chair.
I'll nominate Tom Eichert for chair.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Any other nominations? I'll call a third time. Any other nominations for chair? Thank you. That would make Commissioner Tom Eichert chair, and I'll turn this meeting over to the chair.
Thank you very much. We'll need a vice chair, so I will open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Donna Bigger.
Thank you, Member Laprise. Donna, Member Bigger, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Second call for any for vice chair. Third call for vice chair. Seeing none, that you are acclaimed. So we have a adoption of the agenda in front of us. Is there any changes by any of the members or by administration?
I'll move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Member Laprise. Roll call vote. Member Laprise.
In favor?
Member Bigger.
In favor?
Member Eichert's in favor. Member Clausen.
In favor.
Member Kester.
Favor.
Member Larson.
In favor.
Member Link.
In favor.
That is passed. We have the unapproved minutes from October 8th, 2024. MPC's wishes. Member Clausen.
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Fantastic. I guess I should have said, were there any
Amendments.
errors or omissions? As there is not, we'll continue. I'll Roll call vote, Member Laprise,
In favor.
Member Baker,
In favor?
Member Eichert's in favor, Member Clausen,
In favor.
Member Kester,
In favor.
Member Larson,
In favor.
Member Link.
In favor.
That is passed. We will now move on to development permit applications, DP 2022-216.
Good morning. I'm Suzanne Hayes, Development Officer with Wheatland County. I will be presenting the first 5 files today. This application before us is DP 2022-216, an extension for a development permit for a truck stop. The location plan is found on page 12. It is located approximately 4.8 kilometers west of Carsland on the northwest corner of the intersection of Range Road 263 and Highway 24. On page 13, we have the proposed site layout, a time extension request. The permit became effective on November 4th, 2022 with a completion deadline of November 4th, 2024. This request is to extend the completion deadline until May 4th, 2026, which would allow an additional 18 months to complete the construction of the project. The proposal was for a truck stop, which includes a truck and RV wash building, convenience store, retail petroleum sales, and retail uses to be applied for separately in subsequent development permit applications. Photos of the site taken in October begin on page 16 of the agenda package. The applicant has obtained building, electrical, and plumbing permits and had been working on the building and site construction. The building permits have now expired with extensions to be considered by the safety codes provider in 6-month intervals. The applicant advises that the extension is necessary because the project had stalled due to the general contractor not paying the sub-trades after he received payment and legal assistance was necessary. The land use bylaw stipulates that if a development is not completed within 24 months from the effective date or not carried out with reasonable diligence, the permit approval ceases and expires unless an extension period has been granted by the development authority. The Wheatland County Master Schedule of Fees stipulates that a development extension may be granted one time only. This is the first extension request for this application. Staff's recommendation is on page 10. MPC or staff are recommending that MPC extend the development permit completion deadline for this application to May 4th, 2026, which allows an additional 18 months as requested. And MPC has the standard 3 response options. Please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you, Suzanne. MPC's wishes? Yes, Member Baker.
I'd like to move that Municipal Planning Commission extend the development permit completion deadline for application DP 2022-216 to May 4th, 2026.
Thank you. Discussion? Yes, Member Larson.
Can we add a condition for weed control on that? There's a lot of kochia in those photos.
We cannot add a condition to the development permit, but we can mention that to our weed inspector.
I would do that.
Okay.
So I've got a question for administration. We're extending it till May, and it's a one-time extension. We are now, as we can see out there, we're now in the heart of winter. So there's not going to be a lot of construction being able to be done until spring of this year. So we are now limiting this to one construction period now. We've got from April to November of next year because it'll freeze again and then. So I'm just wondering what happens if, and they do all their due diligence and they hit this deadline, they can't get it done by May and it's a one-time extension. What happens at that point?
Pardon me? No, I don't know what you were going to say.
through the chair to the commission, they would have to reapply for a development permit to keep the construction going on. We're working over building permit applications as well that are having to be renewed, so there's multiple things going on. If we extend it a little longer to give them the whole summer, I find that would be sufficient to allow the extra time for the construction season.
That would sort of be, I would sort of favor that just because we have only got this one construction period. It's a big project, and you've got basically 6 months you could build in this country. And then after that, you're sort of running into a problem. Are we causing more administration problem if we move it to October 31st of 20, just move it 6 months down the road, 5 months down the road?
That wouldn't cause an issue for us.
Wouldn't cause an issue. What is the commission's?
I like the idea, actually, that's 2 construction seasons. So I could take the amendment to go to October 31st, 2026.
Is everybody clear on that? And if they are, is there any discussion on that?
It's going to be a good project. The community is excited about it. Wasn't quite sure what the holdup was, but I like the idea.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. Member Laprise?
In favor.
Member Baker?
In favor?
Member Eichert is in favor. Member Clausen?
In favor.
Member Kester?
Favor.
Member Larson?
In favor.
Member Link?
In favor.
That is passed. Thank you very much. We'll move on to DP 2024-013.
This application begins on page 19 of the agenda package. It is for the construction of a new golf course clubhouse. The location plan is found on page 28. It is within the community of Speargrass, where the developed portion of Speargrass Boulevard ends at the most western extent. The circulation notice was sent to landowners within the community of Speargrass in Vulcan County with no responses received. Agency circulation was completed to Alberta Transportation, and they commented that the proposed development is exempted from the requirement of a permit pursuant to Section 25 of the Highways Development and Protection Regulation. The exemption is subject to the provisions of Section 11 to 23 of the Highways Development and Protection Act and amendments thereto. So they are saying that there is no roadside development permit required, and nothing further is required from Alberta Transportation. We circulated Persist Oil and Gas. There was no response. Vulcan County had no response. Internally, Fire Services commented that a fire inspection will be required prior to opening to the public. And the Transportation Department stated that a development agreement will be required for the road and utility upgrades within the right-of-way. These upgrades include the extension and paving of Speargrass Boulevard, including the installation of curb and gutter, crosswalk signage, and a cul-de-sac, the installation of site accesses, landscaping and seeding of lands adjacent to the roadway, and removal of the existing private pathways, fences, and gates from the road right-of-way. The installation of a municipal water main, service connections, and associated infrastructure, including valves and fire hydrants, installation of sanitary and storm sewer mains and associated infrastructure, including manholes and catch basins, and disconnection of the existing service lines to the property. An access and work agreement and road use agreement will be required to be entered into prior to the start of construction and will be required to be in place throughout the duration of construction. These agreements have been added as conditions if the development permit is approved. Pages 28, 29, and 30, we see the site plan and some aerial photos, some details. The application includes the construction of the clubhouse to replace the existing temporary clubhouse currently located on site. The main intended use will be general golf course operations, including indoor and outdoor dining, a golf pro shop, sales, and hosting tournaments and private banquets. Customer numbers are anticipated to remain consistent with the current numbers, which is approximately 5,000 customers per month from April through October, with hours of operation being sunup to sundown. The new clubhouse will be comparatively sized and situated in the same location as the temporary clubhouse, which has operated on site for approximately 20 years. The existing clubhouse will continue to be used until the new clubhouse is available. In 2023, a development permit was issued to move the temporary clubhouse to a location near the first hole tee box to make room for construction of the new clubhouse. Excuse me. A traffic map can be found on page 33, which showing the new configuration with the traffic bulb. A traffic impact memo was provided in support of the application. It concluded that replacement of the existing clubhouse will have negligible effect on the overall course trip generation and that a full TIA should not be required. The county's third-party engineering firm concluded that the clubhouse would provide services to existing golf members, and it is not anticipated that new development traffic will be generated. The project did not warrant off-site road improvements other than the extension and paving of Speargrass Boulevard and geometric improvements of the access roadway and parking lot. In addition to the upgrade and reconfiguration of the parking lot, construction of improvements to the off-site public road system are required, which I have outlined in the circulation comments. A condition for a development agreement has been added, as previously stated. Parking. Excuse me. Currently, a portion of the golf course parking lot is located on the right-of-way for Speargrass Boulevard. The parking area will be redesigned and removed from the right-of-way, and a turnaround bulb will be constructed beyond the site access where Speargrass Boulevard ends. Final on-site parking design has not been received final approval by the county's third-party engineer, but will be addressed as a condition of the development permit. Page 32, we can see just the service extension drawings. So to accommodate the new clubhouse, the installation of a municipal water main and service connections, as well as associated infrastructures such as valves and fire hydrants, is required. These have been previously outlined in the circulation comments. The servicing requirements have been added as a condition to this development permit under the development agreement condition. Pages 35 and 36 shows some illustrations of the proposed new clubhouse. Staff's recommendation considered that the proposal aligns with the area structure plan, municipal development plan, and land use bylaw requirements. There will be improvements to the off-site road network, improvements to utility services, and no concerns were raised from surrounding landowners. Staff's recommendation is on pages 21 to 23. Staff are recommending that MPC approve this application for a golf course development subject to the 16 conditions as noted, including condition 4 for a road use agreement and access and work agreement, and condition 5 for a development agreement. And that concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you, Suzanne. MPC's wishes? Yes, Member Bigger.
I'd move that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2023-013 for the golf course development subject to the following conditions from 1 to 16.
Thank you. Discussion? As seeing that, I will call the vote.
Excuse me, I just
Sorry.
noted an error in the development permit number says 2023 there. It should say 2024. So we could maybe just correct that.
Thank you.
Noted and corrected. Seeing no discussion, I'll call the vote. Member Laprise.
In favor?
Member Bigger.
In favor?
Member Eichert is in favor. Member Clausen.
In favor.
Member Kester.
In favor.
Member Larson.
In favor.
Member Link.
In favor.
Thank you very much. That is passed. We will move on to DP 2024-067.
This application is for a moved-on dwelling, a detached garage, and a retaining wall, all requiring a variance. The location plan, excuse me, it begins on page 37 of the agenda package. The location plan is on page 44. It is located within the hamlet of Cheadle, directly east of Highway 24 on the north end of Cousin Street. The circulation was completed to adjacent landowners +1. We did not receive any responses. We circulated to Alberta Environment. No responses were received. Internally, the manager of operations stated that they will require an approach application for approval of the location and approach width. And if we go to pages 45 to 48, we can see the site plan and some aerial photos. The site plan on page 46, I have kind of enlarged the text so that it's easier to read. This application is for a moved-on dwelling, a retaining wall, and construction of a detached garage, each requiring variances to the top of slope. The proposed site design ensures that the structures will meet the side and front yard setbacks of the Hamlet Residential General District, but section 7.20.6 of the land use bylaw stipulates that development adjacent to a slope of 15% or greater shall be set back a minimum of 30.48 meters from the top of slope in order to protect banks or slopes from slumping or failing. The west rear property line is at the bottom of a slope that is greater than this, with grades varying between 25 and 41.5%. This area runs adjacent to Provincial Highway 24 and contains a drainage course. And you can see the top of slope indicated in red on the drawing. The prescribed setback limits the buildable area of the lot to the extent that development may not be possible if they adhere to the setback to the top of slope and the front yard setback. So a variance has been requested to allow development to occur within the 30.48 meter setback. In order to lessen the variance to the top of slope as much as possible, the dwelling chosen has a relatively narrow depth of 36 feet. And the dwelling has been positioned as far forward east on the property as the setback allows, which is 6.10 meters. The front yard setback must be maintained as it allows room for snow clearing on Cousin Street and provides adequate depth for a vehicle to park in the driveway. Due to site constraints, the proposed structures are not able to meet the required setback. A slope stability assessment was provided in support of the variance. The report recommended that the development, such as buildings and the retaining wall, may not be located any closer than 4.5 meters from the top of slope. Variances have then been requested to allow the dwelling to be 14.75 meters, the garage 17.6 meters, and the retaining wall 10.97 meters from the top of slope. The study also provided recommendations to protect the slope, which have been added as development permit conditions. Staff's recommendation considers the following: that the established setback area outlined in the slope stability assessment shall protect the slope and drainage course from adverse impacts, and that no concerns were raised from surrounding landowners, agencies, or the internal peer review. Staff's conclusion and recommendation is found on page 38. Oh, gosh. There, see, I'm living in the past. This one says 2023 as well, sorry. So staff's recommendation is that MPC approve DP 2024-067 for the moved-on dwelling, detached garage, and retaining wall with variances subject to the conditions as noted. Please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you, Suzanne. I'll move that MPC approve DP 2024-067 for a moved-on dwelling, a detached garage, and a retaining wall with variances subject to conditions 1 through 10. Discussion. Yes, Member Clausen.
Just, is 20 inches, is that classified as a retaining wall or is that just a curb? Will that be an engineer structure?
I don't think it's an engineered structure unless it's higher than 3 feet. Is that correct? For a retaining wall? On this assessment of the slope stability, they said that the retaining wall provided some stability to the foundation where the house was going.
Okay.
So,
I believe that a retaining wall, once it reaches 4 feet, has to be engineered, but anything underneath 4 feet can be a do-it-yourself kind of thing, so. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. Member Laprise.
I'm in favor.
Member Bigger.
In favor?
Member Eichert's in favor. Member Clausen.
In favor.
Member Kester.
In favor.
Member Larson.
In favor.
Member Link.
In favor.
Thank you very much. That is passed. We will now move on to DP 2024-078.
this application begins on page 52 of the agenda package. The location plan is found on page 62. It is located approximately 4.8 kilometers southwest of Strathmore on the northwest corner of Township Road 240 and Range Road 260. Circulation was completed to landowners within 1 mile. I will address those comments later in the report. The agency circulation was completed to Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation South Inspection and Investigation Section Manager, who provided the following comment. This on-farm slaughter operation, which is an uninspected slaughter operation, is a licensed facility. However, based on the parameters provided, the disposal of offal and blood on the property should only occur by transfer to a certified landfill that will accept the product they intend to dispose of. Water well reports are showing sand, sandstone, shale, and substrate not suitable for disposal via burial for fluids and high volume of animal offal. The mapping system in place that AGI staff uses shows there is a moderate risk to the groundwater table. The location the producer identified for disposal by burial, initially when he applied, does not meet the setbacks required in the DDAR. Additionally, the environmental concerns regarding high water table and an ephemeral stream in the area will negate any further potential for disposal on any further parts of the property identified. For these reasons, the only legal method of disposal would be a rendering hauling company such as West Coast Reductions. There may be other suitable companies, but a disposal plan would be a valid way of confirming they understand the requirements. The burning of offal and parts is again a violation under the DDAR, and any burning must meet the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act, the Substance Release Regulation, which has the burn at 1400 degrees, and this is done in an incinerator licensed under EPEA. We circulated to the inspections group, the county safety codes provider, and they said this use will result in high-strength wastewater. As such, it would require additional treatment before being applied to the soil unless it can be shown that there are other flows and evidence of the effluents being tested showing lesser strength sewage. It would be recommended that a holding tank be used for the facility building and type of use if that's an option. Internally, Agriculture and Environment stated that foxtail barley is an unregulated weed under the Weed Control Act. It is an unregulated bunch grass which has a good tolerance to salinity. We cannot action its control with the Weed Act regulations. They didn't have any issues with the application and provided a link to the disposal of dead animals regulation, the DDAR. We received 10 responses from landowners. 2 of them were from the same landowner. We circulated within 1 mile. Copies of the letters are found on pages 73 to 78, or to 88, and on page 56 to 60, I have provided a summary of the responses. Sorry, that's page 58, 59. And I will read these. These were a summary of the concerns we received and how we have tried to address them. So one concern was the contamination of the water course. So we added a condition that no on-site disposal of animal parts or animal fluids is allowed on site. A septic holding tank will be used for processing wastewater from the processing building. Another concern was the disposal of inedible animal parts and fluids, increased presence of coyotes, animal parts found on adjacent properties. Conditions have been included that no on-site disposal of animal parts or fluids is allowed on site. Specialized storage receptacles are to be provided by authorized disposal company to reduce the occurrence of coyotes or other pests. Process water in the septic system. The amount of water generated from cleaning the processing area is minimal, not exceeding 50 gallons per week. However, the applicant will install a septic pump out tank to be pumped out as required and disposed of at a location authorized to accept the waste. Overgrazing concerns and concerns with foxtail barley. Foxtail barley is an unregulated bunch grass which has a good tolerance to salinity. It has been prevalent on many properties in recent years. The best approach is to consistently mow it before it goes to seed. The applicant is working on addressing the issue of foxtail and says it was partially inherited from the previous owner and have been making efforts to eliminate it over the past 2 years. Another concern was that there are too many animals and they had concerns with animal welfare. The applicant ensures an adequate food supply for the animals through regular hay purchases and is a member of the Loop Resource Program, which provides fresh vegetables weekly. This program provides more than sufficient feed for the animals, even during high demand periods. The applicant will continue to monitor grazing practices and feed supply to meet animal welfare standards. An inspection by the Alberta On-Farm Slaughter was completed on October 28th and confirmed that the applicant is meeting all the requirements related to animal safety and health. They are committed to maintaining these standards and will remain compliant with all recommendations. The operation does not require direct animal health inspections as they do not breed livestock on site. They purchase livestock at auctions from reputable breeders where the animals already meet all health compliance standards. Serious concerns regarding animal welfare may be reported directly to the SPCA. Concerns regarding the amount of water used, the annual usage still falls within the maximum household use. Slaughter occurring indoors is not allowed under the provincial license. The slaughter occurs outside and the further processing occurs within the building. The type of slaughter is not humane. Slaughtering practices are not under the our purview to regulate. So here we have the site plan, and I'll give some details. The operation offers live animals for sale with the option for clients to either take the animals home or slaughter them on site in a designated area before being further processed inside the existing building. Specific animal types include small livestock such as sheep, goats, and poultry. If the option for on-site processing is chosen, the animals are selected by the customer and processed according to their preferred method, with basic assistance provided by the business owners. The building is equipped with stainless steel tables and other necessary equipment. Business does not store any hazardous materials. Noise levels will be typical animal sounds, and strict sanitation practices will be implemented to help mitigate potential odors. It is anticipated that 3 to 5 customers per week will visit the site, with the potential for 5 to 15 during holiday periods. The business will utilize their own trailer to transport the animals to their site approximately every 2 to 3 months. A traffic impact review has been discussed in the technical review section of this report. The business has been granted an on-farm slaughter license from Alberta Agriculture. The province regulates the disposal of carcasses and non-edible animal parts such as fluids, bones, organs, skin, and feathers through the Disposal of Dead Animals Regulation under the Animal Health Act. Subject to acceptable conditions, disposal methods may include disposal at a Class 1 or Class 2 landfill, on-farm burial, composting, or burning. As discussed during the circulation comments, Alberta Agriculture is not recommending either of those methods. This aerial photo is from 2012. This one shows the water course that goes through the property. It wasn't really visible on current aerial photos, but looking back, we can see the path of it. So due concerns regarding the water course and subsequent discussions with Alberta Agriculture, as I mentioned, no animal parts or fluids are permitted to be disposed of on the property. Off-site disposal can be provided, which will offer a scheduled pickup service and specialized storage containers specifically recommended for each particular site based on the layout and business details. Administration and the applicant both contacted West Coast Reductions to get more information on this process, and they confirmed they are able to facilitate the pickup and processing of blood and animal waste with the exception of animal skins. They will provide a covered container to control odors and prevent pests, and the applicant may arrange weekly pickups. They allow flexibility to increase or decrease pickups based on the needs. And if the application is approved, a condition is included which requires the applicant to use the services of a certified animal waste disposal contractor. They have told me that they have already contacted West Coast Reduction so that they can get that process in order should this be approved. The waste storage container will be kept in a designated area specifically for the covered waste container. Animal skins will be transported to the Shepherd landfill in Calgary the morning after slaughter. The landfill only accepts animal waste before 9 a.m., so the skins will be secured on a truck overnight for early morning disposal. The waste disposal plan has been included as a condition of this development permit. And I'll just make a comment on, I'll show you the processing building, which is on page 71. So currently, wastewater from the processing building drains into the septic system that is shared with the dwelling. The applicant is amenable to implementing a separate pump out tank to contain any fluids from the processing building. Regular tank servicing will be required to be completed in order to prevent any risk of overflow. And as water usage, water for the business will be sourced from the well located on the property with approximately 6.8 cubic meters used weekly, primarily for animal processing and sanitation. This calculates to 354 cubic meters annually. Under the Water Act, the annual household daily allowance is 1,250 cubic meters. Staff's recommendation considers the following: that the proposal aligns with the MDP policies and LUB requirements. The permit offers the opportunity to apply conditions and oversight for use that is in demand by members of the public. Staff are proposing a temporary permit for a 2-year term to allow an opportunity for the new processes to be established and an opportunity to check in after 2 years. Staff's recommendation is found on page 54. It is that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-078 for the abattoir, subject to the conditions as noted, including condition 6 for a septic holding tank, condition 10 for the waste disposal plan. Sorry, that's 11. And condition 15 stipulating a permit expiry date of November 19th, 2026. Condition 16. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. MPC's wishes? Yes, Member Kester.
I didn't see anywhere in there for CFIA inspections.
The CFIA inspections are for inspected meat. It's one that goes under the federal jurisdiction, but for unexpected on-farm slaughter licenses, they're under the purview of Alberta Agriculture.
So what sort of guarantee do we have that when they do on-farm slaughtering, that the meat will be for personal use? These people won't take it home and sell it to their friends, neighbors, colleagues, whatever. I don't know what the end use. There's no guarantee, and that's, I have concerns over that one, such a high volume.
Yes, there is no guarantee of that.
Okay.
I have a question on, so the Alberta on-farm slaughter, they came October 28th. Do they come yearly, every 6 months to do they do follow-up?
I don't know how often they come. I believe they came at this particular time because we had been in communications with them and we had talked to them about, what was this water course on site and the site layout and everything. And so they said they were putting it on their inspection list. So I'm not sure how often they do come.
Yes, Member Clausen. Now, before I would like to get a motion on the floor so then we can start the discussion. I think would be the proper way to do this because there's going to be, this is a very contentious issue. So Member Clausen, do you have a?
Okay.
Yes, no. Yes, Member LaPrice.
I will move that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-078 for an abattoir, subject to the conditions 1 through 16.
Discussion. Member Clausen, then Member Kester.
I understand there's a motion on the floor and I'd like to support it, but there's a few questions I have. It looks like Alberta Ag licensed this prior to development permit, correct? So there's and I've seen this before in other agricultural operations where there are something, why are they not talking to us first? That would be my first thing. Because we get into this problem where we're chasing something that's been in operation already. And it was disposing of animal carcasses in an improper way from the start until we pointed a finger at it, which leads me to my next question. Who regulates this after if we approve it?
So because this is new for us processing these applications, we were instructing people go to Alberta Agriculture and get your permit and then come to us with that permit in your hand so we would know what was in their purview. But when we had discussions with the inspector, he recommended that we change that and we do the permitting first and then have them go to Alberta Agriculture. So that's what we're going to do going forward. In this particular case, I'm not sure why they were operating ahead of time, but we are changing how we do it. And then afterwards, it is under their, for the operations, it's under Alberta Agriculture's purview to, review how the operation is going. But we can check back in 2 years and see if things have improved. I know some of the neighbors had concerns when it was operating prior to receiving the permit.
I can fill in some information. It's the milk and dairy inspection that does the inspection. So that's milk and dairy under the Alberta Ag Society. There's a number that you can phone if you have complaints and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's, and I'd be willing to give out that information. So Member Kester, are you finished, Member Clausen?
Well, I just wanted to follow up too. So it mentions in here the SPCA, and I know this council and board are very aware of the SPCA and how difficult it is to, when it comes to animal welfare, to actually get them to engage. It's extremely, and I've had some in I think we've all had them in our divisions where it's very challenging. That organization it's interesting that it's cited as they're the ones, but they are not funded enough to do the job in a proper way. And that's just the reality of it. And unless something's changed, I have not seen it's only gotten worse. They're good. It's a good organization. They just don't have the capabilities of dealing with some of this stuff. So
When I spoke to the peace officers about it, they said, we don't we don't have the capability to do animal welfare inspections either. So they said if somebody came to us with a concern about animal welfare, we would call the SPCA. And the peace officers may work with them, but that's our avenue as well.
I'm good.
Member Kester.
I understand that most of the animals for slaughter are going to be bought at auction marts, so not farm raised.
That's what they said, yes.
And there's no inspection of the meat. I know what they sell at auction marts. I've used them. I just can't support this because of, as a farmer or a rancher, I don't do it much anymore. I don't have any cows anymore, no livestock. But the auction mart, if you have an older cow, or that's where you take it and somebody buys it and you would think would take it to a licensed facility and slaughter it. Sometimes they just get rendered. The whole carcass is shipped off to West Coast rendering. I have concerns, being no inspections, that it would be abused. That's my concern.
So I'm going to jump in here. Came back from Army, and I was able to corner the Minister of Agriculture and asked him what in God's name they were doing with the on-farm slaughter. Is such a, what they tried to do, I believe, is they said that if a farmer has an animal or is raising animals, it gives him the opportunity to sell the animals to sell meat for those animals on animals that he's raised, and that he knows what the animal is, and that he's selling, and he knows, like, we know when an animal's healthy and when an animal's not healthy, goes to the auction mart. That's unfortunate, that's the way it works. And that's what the idea was, but as soon as you put an on-farm slaughter license and a livestock dealer license together, that is like how, there's no guarantees that, and the meat is uninspected, like there's no guarantees of anything that's happening. So anyways, the Alberta government is now is revamping. They're taking a serious look at the on-farm slaughter license. For number one, the reason being allowing a license. And I understand that if I've got a license from a province, that should theoretically, if I'm just trying to live by the rules, that should be good enough. But when the license hasn't given any thought to what happens here, we run into a bunch of serious ramifications. The other thing that I have, and that I've been on this board for 7 years, and I've struggled with the 7 years, is my land, what can I do on my land? And I'm sorry, when you start, this is probably one of the most congested areas in my riding, that we have 11 residences in a quarter mile of that. If I want to do something on my land and I directly impact all these people, am I allowed to do that? And I don't think we're allowed to do that. I mean, if this was on a section of land just about anywhere in the county, would anybody care? No, because it doesn't affect what's going on. But this is directly affecting, like, this little congested area here is the size that Nightingale was 30 years ago, right? So, I mean, we wouldn't put this into a hamlet, but we basically have a small hamlet in this area. I go out and I buy land. Am I allowed to do anything on that land? We wouldn't allow them to put the Alberta government wouldn't allow them to put a feedlot in there. So this is I understand what the individual is doing, and the individual has got the blessing, rightly or wrongly, from the Alberta government. But it isn't right. I never want to go against administration. The administration's job is to bring into a compliance any business that wants to come into and I understand that. But in this particular situation, I'll be voting against it. It's the wrong use in the wrong place. If this place was on a section of land somewhere else, I would say, fill your boots. But this is just bad. And then the other question I have while we were talking about this is, what is the county going to do with all the animal parts that are buried out there? We know that they're buried because the coyotes haven't been able to drag everything away. So, what are we doing with this in regards to, are we going to force him to clean up the site now? Because he has definitely been burying animal waste in a wetlands. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. So I'm going to be voting against this. I've said my piece. It's horrible legislation on the provincial side. We are playing catch up, as we've done multiple times, because the provincial government goes, oh, this will solve the problem, and it just creates massive amounts of problems. So I will be saying no to this. Thank you. Any other, Member Kester, and then Member Laprise.
I can agree with mostly what you said about. I can't agree about putting it in the middle of a section. I can't support it because of health and safety concerns of where the animals are coming from. And you said one other thing, which I wholeheartedly agree with. You expect, if the Alberta government gives you a permit to be safe, I also suspect, and I would appreciate if the Wheatland County approves something, we feel it's safe. I think it falls on us too. And I'm not convinced that this is going to be, from a food perspective, I wouldn't.
Thank you. Points well taken, Member Kester. Member Laprise.
So I do still support this. I think administration's done an amazing job of making sure that the issues that were raised by the surrounding residents have been addressed. I agree that maybe we need to add another one, that there needs to be a cleanup done on the land that I don't know if that's a possibility, but from previous practices that they were doing. In terms of, I just think that whether they are as effective as they could be is up for debate, I guess. But the fact is that that people have an option to call in complaints to either the, milk and dairy inspection, SPCA. There are avenues that people could take. And lastly, that there's a 2-year term on it, so that we would be able to see how it goes, see what residents are thinking. I think this, with the conditions that have been outlined, the place will get cleaned up a lot more than it is now, and I think residents will see a lot less impacts than they already have. So I'm going to support it.
Thank you, Member Laprise. Member Clausen?
Thanks. So this thing about uninspected meat, and I don't think a lot of people realize what that means. I've processed animals before, and if I want to have it inspected, I pay extra to have it done. We all have done that, and you get and it's stamped on the package for sale. But because of on-farm, like this kind of operation, people come and pick it up. I'm also an industry where I haul food for a living, and I have a whole bunch of regulations on my trucks about how clean they have to be and all kind of sanitization and things. And when it's uninspected, people will come and put it in their trunk and drive away. So there's that aspect of it too. And it's fine if it's a 1 or 2 little thing offhand, but this is way more animals than that, and that's where it becomes a problem. 50 liters for washing down or something like that, it just seems very low to me. I've also hauled chemicals into abattoirs in Strathmore and the like where they clean down. They have a crew that goes in there at night and sanitizes the place top to bottom every night. And that's the regulatory, because they have an on-site inspector that insists on that. These are not inspected facilities. There is an inspector on site when they're doing anything. They may show up once in a while, but I don't think the public, and this goes to Councillor Kester's thing about when we approve something, is it safe? I don't think the public's aware of how lean or loosey-goosey it is about inspections on these kind of things. It's only on complaint basis. Then I go back 50 years ago, every single mixed farm in the area, we did this. We all did this to feed our families, but it was your own family. You were, maybe your neighbors were involved or something, but when you're so close to 1 million people, I think we all know where most of this meat's going. If you have sheep in the area, you will find out very quickly who wants those sheep and how they want to dispose of them on your property. It's a different kind of culture. It's a different kind of way, but if these people get sick, we're all Albertans, we're all Canadians, right? So it's supposed to look after people. So it is, the regulation is very, from the province, I'm not happy with it, but it is what it is right at the moment. I do hope they change it, but as far as supporting this right now, it's a tough one, because I think at least I think no matter what we do, there's going to be a problem here. And I get it from agricultural side, I get it, but this isn't somebody raising animals on their farm that they've looked after and cared for. It's somebody trying to get a cut of meat to somebody else. And it's not inspected. There isn't an inspector on site when they kill. I know the ones I go to, when they are doing when they're processing an animal, an inspector has to be in the building right from the start to the finish, because all this SRMs and all that kind of stuff that we've all heard about and struggled with, because if something happens, all the farms get affected because of this. And this will be grouped into all farms in the media if something goes wrong. And I think we've had another one in the county up in the northeast corner where there was illegal meat that got shut down too. So this is not the first time this has happened, so.
Good discussion. Any more? Member Larson.
I hear what everybody's saying, but this facility, we have to look at what the MPC is tasked with. This facility is not regulated by the Canada Food Inspection Agency, so that goes off the table right away. That's not the county's concern. If it's licensed through Alberta Agriculture, that's their problem. We should be looking at, does it meet the requirements of the permit and development? That's our function here, not to be the regulator of whether food is safe to use or not. That's not in our purview.
Any more discussion? I will counter that in the fact on just strictly on where the location of this particular property is, the amount of people that are involved in the area, the amount of letters we've got. Our ratepayers, my ratepayers, are not happy with this. We have nobody out there's there's not a ratepayer in the countywide that has said this is a good idea. So I'm here at the behest of the ratepayer. I understand that I'm not supposed to vote against administration. I'm not voting against administration. Administration has done the best job that they can do in this situation. But as I said, I will be voting against it. This is the wrong place in the wrong location. Any other discussion? I will call the vote. Member Laprise.
In favor.
Member Bigger.
Opposed.
Member Eichert is opposed. Member Clausen.
I'm opposed.
Member Kester.
Opposed.
Member Larson.
I'm in principle opposed to it, but I'm in favor because I think the administration from the county has done their job, and it would be in our best interest to approve it. So I'm going to be in favor, even though I don't support the project.
Thank you. Member Link.
Opposed.
I have that as 5-2. That one does not pass. So going forward, what is the individual has been slaughtering animals before this date. what is the process now? He is allowed to take this to SD, the subdivision appeal. But what happens in the meantime? Do we have enforcement? Have you talked to Alberta government whether they have enforcement that they have definitely not passed? It is recommend, I think it might not even, might be a recommendation that they get county permission after this license is issued province-wide. So what happens now? What are we willing to do?
So number one, I just wanted to remind MPC that we need reasons for refusal. So you may have to give us some reasons and we might take a break and word things accordingly. And then the applicant has the option to appeal the decision. And if the application is refused, then they can't operate in Wheatland County in that location. And we can let Alberta Agriculture know that we did not approve the development permit.
So do we need that, the reason for?
Yes, you need to provide us with some reasons for refusal. And we can go and work on wording them appropriately.
So what is my next
Through
plan?
the chair, MPC can also move into a closed session, if I recall procedurally, to draft reasons.
Okay.
I would look to administration for confirmation. I know we can deliberate in closed session.
Through the chair to the commission, that's correct.
Well, then I will move that we go into closed session. I will call the vote. Member Laprise?
In favor?
Member Bigger?
In favor?
Member Akers in favor? Member Clausen?
In favor.
Member Kester?
Opposed?
Member Larson?
Opposed.
Member Link?
In favor.
So we are now in closed session. I will call the question. Member Laprise?
In favor?
Member Bigger?
In favor?
Member Akert is in favor. Member Clausen?
In favor.
Member Kester?
Favor?
Member Larson?
In favor.
Member Link, if you can hear us.
In favor.
Thank you very much. After closed session, should be something brought up about the reasons why we didn't approve the last DP. They're coming, okay. Yeah. I don't know the Jeopardy theme song, else I'd play it. I'd hum it right now, so.
Then when they come up, we should read them out for member Link, because you probably
Right.
have access to that.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes, sorry, go ahead, Member Link.
I did receive the reasons via email, and I apologize. I had problems getting into the closed session meeting. Just a question in terms of the reasons. Is it advisable to put the reasons regarding the provincial processes into this decision, or would it be more appropriate to address those through perhaps a meeting with our local MLAs to discuss those? Because I'm mindful that the provincial jurisdiction, as was presented during the discussion, is outside of the scope of MPC's consideration. But I believe we have a couple of reasons within the rationale for refusal that are more specific to MPC's decision-making and our own land use planning jurisdiction. Just a consideration for MPC.
In the closed session, I did bring up that we have to bring it strongly or send a letter to province to say that we want to be involved in the revisions of this on-farm slaughter. So would that fall into the purview of what you would agree to?
Yes, that relates. I guess my question is to administration. Is it advisable to include those within the reasons when they are outside of the MPC's jurisdiction, like recognizing that as elected officials, we can have concerns with another jurisdiction's processes. So personally, I really believe strongly in having on-farm slaughter available. I think it's, I do think there's elements of personal responsibility that need to be considered. And I think there are some strong benefits with the direction the province has gone in. I think I would be very supportive of engaging in strengthening the regulatory framework around that process and around those approvals. Just looking to administration for advice on, I guess, the relevance of those reasons to this decision, or if that should be within our reasons or not.
Through the chair, Stefan from administration speaking here. Yeah, so these were certainly taken from, with guidance from the members of the board. I think the way that we've worded it, particularly with number 3 there, is it says the concerns with the gaps in regulatory oversight. So it's not necessarily, that there is oversight or it's in or out of our jurisdiction. It's just that there may be areas where between something that's in the municipality's jurisdiction, something that's in the province, it's more to do with kind of those areas where it's a little bit unclear as to who handles what area. But obviously certainly open to any suggestions you might have.
No, I appreciate administration's perspective and advice on that, and I'm fully supportive of the reasons for refusal. Thank you.
So we have the reasons for refusal up on the screen. Should they be read or Member Link has got a copy of them, so I think everybody's aware of that. So we are going ahead with this. Member Clausen.
Just a question, administration, does this need to be in the form of a motion or just as part of the process? Being that we haven't not done this very often, so I want to make sure we do it right.
No, you do not have to, through the chair to council. These are commission, these are your grounds for refusal, and you're putting them up, and there's no reason you've already voted to refuse it, and we just captured your grounds from your conversations for those reasons for refusal.
Perfect, thank you. Question to administration. I see there's a presenter here we have a public, do we go through the whole thing or do we take a break from the DP and allow so I'm trying to figure out, sure. Do we continue with our MPC meeting or do we go with?
I feel like these should be read just because I don't know if there's any people on the phone. They wouldn't, from the public on the phone, they wouldn't see these. Should we not read them? Just before we get off this.
Administration? Yeah. Okay. We're getting a decision on that. Member Link has got a copy
No,
of
I'm thinking about anybody else.
And if someone looks at this meeting later, would this come up on the screen? Maybe we should just read it out. I can read it out if you want while we're waiting. So I'll read out D2.
Chair, could we also just add it to the agenda package as an addendum so that it's available on our website prior to the minutes being published?
I'll read it out as well. Be part of the minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all we've ever done.
Okay, well, I won't read it. For your second question, I will be chairing the ones after we need to finish this first.
Okay.
MPC should finish first.
Perfect. Good enough. Well then, am I waiting for anything or can I go on to DP? DP 2024.
Through the chair.
115.
The request is to pause MPC meeting to continue with the public presentation meeting and then come back to MPC.
Through the chair, I don't know if some of these people that are here have applications as well that they've been waiting.
Right.
I can ask.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for all the help, people.
Yeah.
I I would suggest you continue seeing, looking at the agenda, continuing chairing the meeting
We can
that's at hand.
continue the meeting.
So we are going to continue with the meeting. I apologize. The presenters can see how the sausage is being made. So we will move on to 2.5, which is DP 2024-115.
This application begins on page 89 of the agenda package. It is for an accessory dwelling with a variance. Location plan is on page 94. It is located approximately 13.68 kilometers northwest of Dallam, 2 kilometers west of Highway 841 on the east side of Range Road 205A. It was circulated to adjacent landowners within 1 mile in Wheatland and Kneehill County. No responses were received. Agencies were circulated the inspection group, who said that the building would be classified as a 110 single house, single detached home bungalow, linked home, Group C residential occupancies. They will need a building permit for a change of use. If they aren't doing anything further to the home, that would be the only building permit requirement. CN Railway provided a response just before we uploaded the agenda package, so we did include the response. It is on page 104, and they basically said that they recommend a 30-meter setback and construction of a berm alongside the railway in between the houses. Staff note that the rail is currently not operational and the structures are already existing on the lands, and the berm and setbacks they are suggesting cannot be accommodated due to the narrow configuration of the parcel. Staff are recommending that an advisory note be added to the permit, which I will present along with the conditions later in the presentation. Pages 95 to 97, we have a site plan and some aerial photos. So the application is to permit a second permanent residence on the parcel as an accessory dwelling. The building is existing and was originally permitted in 2012 as a temporary dwelling for compassionate reasons for a 1-year term. In 2013, the owners obtained a permit to convert the building into a home office and are now proposing that the building be converted back to a residence. The proposed dwelling is 320 square feet, which does not meet the current minimum size requirement of 400 square feet, so a variance is required. The primary dwelling is 707 square feet, so it does meet the requirement that an accessory dwelling may not be larger than 80% of the size of the primary. All setbacks to property lines have been met. Both dwellings will use a cistern for a potable water supply. The dwelling is off-grid using solar panels for electricity and propane for heat. Currently, there is no septic system for the proposed dwelling. If approved, the accessory dwelling will tie into the existing septic used by the primary dwelling or install an alternate approved system. At present, the building is situated on railway ties, but a permanent foundation will be constructed pending approval. A direct approach from Range Road 205A to the subject lands. Let's find a good photo here of that. There we go. To the subject lands exists. However, the applicant prefers to use the access on CN Railway lands, which has an approach to the same roadway. The CN lands are no longer used by CN and the driveway is more fully developed, whereas the area within the subject lands feature hilly terrain. An easement agreement has been entered into with CN to allow use of the roadway. Easements as a form of access are typically discouraged per the land use bylaw. However, there are no concerns in this case as the arrangement is existing and physical access to Range Road 205A is available if the use of the CN driveway becomes untenable in the future. The LUB does require that the agreement be registered on title by the landowner, and this has been added as a condition of this permit. Staff's recommendation considers the following: that the buildings are existing, a building permit for a change of use is required, and no objections were raised from surrounding landowners. The recommendation is on pages 89 to 90. Staff are recommending that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-115 for the dwelling accessory with a variance subject to the conditions as noted, including a building permit requirement and registration of the easement. And that concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you, Suzanne. MPC's wishes? Yes, Member Larson.
I'll move that MPC approve DP 2024-115 for a dwelling accessory with a variance subject to the conditions 1 through 8.
Thank you. Discussion. Member LaPrice.
You'd mentioned that you were going to add a clause from C and rail. Would that be condition 9?
Yes, I did. It's not a condition, it's just an advisory note. And I will show you what we have come up with. Thank you for reminding me. So an advisory note will be on the bottom of the permit. The adjacent CN railway is not in operation at the time of permit approval. However, the landowner should be advised that it may become operational in the future. Reactivation of the railway may cause disturbance to the residents, and the parcel size and configuration may present challenges in implementing mitigation measures such as a separation berm. So that is what we would like to advise the residents. Or
Thank you. Any more discussion? Yes, Member Clausen.
Just want to make sure that the mover is okay with that advisory note because it was his motion, so.
Yeah, it's an advisory note.
Okay.
Perfect. I will call the vote. Member LaPrice?
I'm in favor.
Member Bigger?
In favor?
Member Eichert is in favor. Member Clausen?
In favor.
Member Kester?
In favor.
Member Larson?
In favor.
Member Link?
In favor.
That is passed. We will move on to DP 2024-120.
Good morning, MPC. Rachel Hanson-Beaton with Planning and Development Services, here to present the next 3 development permits. DP 2024-120 is for an accessory dwelling. The property is located approximately 7.24 kilometers northeast of Layalta, 175 meters west of Range Road 262, on the north side of Highway 564. The application has been circulated internally to agencies and to the adjacent surrounding properties in a 1-mile radius, as shown on page 115. There were no concerns. Alberta Transportation did add some comments on page 108. Did you want me to read them, or are they good as presented? Okay.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. Pages 112 and 113 show the site plan. The application is to present a second permanent residence on the parcel as an accessory dwelling. The existing 975 square foot building is an old farmhouse which currently has no water or electricity. The applicant proposes to renovate it and make it habitable. The application meets all the setbacks of the land use bylaw and complies with the requirement that an accessory dwelling may not be larger than 80% of the size of the primary dwelling, which is 1,642 square feet. The proposed dwelling will share the existing well and septic system with the primary dwelling. Both dwellings will share the existing access on Highway 564. Pages 116 to 118 show the dwellings. In conclusion, staff recommend the Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-120 for a dwelling accessory subject to the conditions 1 through 6 found on pages 106 to 107. The proposal meets the objectives of the municipal development plan and the land use bylaw. MPC has a standard 3 responses as found on page 109. This concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. MPC's wishes. Member Clausen.
Put a motion forward that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-120 for a dwelling accessory subject to the 6 conditions in the package.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the vote. Member Laprise.
In favor.
Member Bigger.
In favor?
Member Eichert is in favor. Member Clausen.
In favor.
Member Kester.
In favor.
Member Larson.
In favor.
Member Link.
In favor.
That is passed. We will move on to item 2.7, which is DP 2024-123.
Development permit DP 2024-123 is for 5 existing buildings with 1 requiring a variance. The property is located 4 kilometers southwest of Ardennote, 0.8 kilometers east of Range Road 255, on the south side of Township Road 252. The application has been circulated internally to agencies and to the adjacent surrounding properties in a 1-mile radius, as shown on page 123. Nope, that's wrong. Apologize. 124. Circulation is 128. Pages 124 to 127 show the site plan. This application is to address non-compliant structures located on the subject lands. A compliance review identified 4 existing farm buildings, an accessory building which do not have a development permits as required by the land use bylaw. One of the buildings does not meet the setbacks required of the land use bylaw. The 3.616 meter by 3.75 meter shed does not meet the required setback of 3.05 meters and is located 1.67 meters from the west property line. The subject parcel is surrounded by ag land on all sides. There are no structures on the adjacent parcel to the west, and a row of trees runs between the shed and the west property line. In order to be compliant with the current land use bylaw, development permits are required for the 5 buildings. The shed that does not meet the current setbacks may either be removed from the parcel, a permit may be issued with the requirement that the structure be moved into compliance, or approval of a development permit with a variance to the setback is required. Pages 129 to 131 show pictures of the shed. In conclusion, staff recommend that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-123 for the 5 buildings with 1 variance, subject to the following conditions 1 through 3 found on page 120. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal generally aligns with the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, the Regional Growth Management Plan, the Municipal Development Plan, and the Land Use Bylaw. MPC has a standard 3 responses found on page 121, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. MPC's wishes? Yes, Member Clausen.
I'll move that the Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-123 for 5 buildings with 1 variance subject to conditions 1 through 3.
Thank you. Discussion? I will call the vote. Member Laprise.
In favor.
Member Bigger.
In favor?
Member Eichert is in favor. Member Clausen.
In favor.
Member Kester.
Favor.
Member Larson.
In favor.
Member Link.
In favor.
That is passed. We'll move on to item 2.8 on the agenda, which is DP 2024-125.
Development permit DP 2025-125 is for 4 existing buildings with 1 requiring a variance. The property is located approximately 4.8 kilometers northeast of Nameka, 1.6 kilometers north of Township Road 234, on the west side of Range Road 242. The application has been circulated internally to agencies and to surrounding properties in a 1-mile radius, as shown on page 141. There were no concerns raised at the time. Page 137 shows the site plan. This application is to address the non-compliant structures located on the subject lands. A compliance review identified 4 accessory buildings which do not have development permits as required by the land use bylaw. One of the buildings does not meet the setback requirements of the land use bylaw. The gazebo is located 10.54 meters from the east property line, adjacent to Range Road 242, and the required setback is 22.86 meters. The subject parcel is surrounded by ag land with Range Road 242 running adjacent to the east property boundary. In order to be compliant with the current land use bylaw, development permits are required for the buildings. The gazebo, which does not meet the current setbacks, may either be removed from the parcel. A permit may be issued with the requirement that the structure be moved into compliance, or approval of a development permit with a variance to the setback is required. Page 142 contains photos of the gazebo. In conclusion, staff recommend that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-125 for the 4 buildings with 1 variance subject to the following conditions, 1 through 3, found on page 133. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal generally aligns with the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, the Regional Growth Management Plan, the Municipal Development Plan, and the Land Use Bylaw. MPC has the standard 3 responses found on page 134. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. MPC's wishes. Oh, sorry, member Bigger.
I'll move that Municipal Planning Commission approve DP 2024-125 for 4 buildings with 1 variance subject to the following conditions. Is that the one we're on?
Perfect.
Yeah. 1 to 3.
Thank you. Discussion. Yes, member Kester.
Question for staff. I'm just a little bit confused. It says, same with the last one. These are old farmsteads, I'm guessing. Structures that never ever had a building permit or building development permit or anything. Now all of a sudden, maybe I'm just slow. All these structures need a building permit? I can understand the variance for one that's too close. And if they all need a building permit, are we charging these people for building permit for each structure?
Through the chair. So these are from compliance reviews that they wanted compliance. So we look through to see if there's any development permits and if they meet the required setbacks. Building permits are not required at this time.
Okay.
Yep. And the fee would just be for the development permits, we put the fee under all of the buildings. So in this case, it would have been 300 because it's 150 for accessory dwellings plus double because they're already built. And then the 250 for the variance. So 550 altogether.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. Member Laprise?
In favor.
Member Bigger?
In favor?
Member Eichert is in favor. Member Clausen?
In favor.
Member Kester?
In favor.
Member Larson?
In favor.
Member Link?
In favor.
Thank you. That is passed. That takes care of our development permits. We now move on to subdivision applications. 3.1. SD 2024-019.
Good morning, Jessica Russell with Planning and Development Services presenting subdivision application ST 2024-019 to adjust the boundaries between parcels within the northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 24, Range 25, west of the 4th Meridian. The subject lands are located 2.5 kilometers west of the town of Strathmore, immediately southeast of the intersection of Range Road 260 and Township Road 244. The application proposes to adjust the boundaries between Lot 2, Block 1, Plan 1412128, and the northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 24, Range 25, west of the 4th Meridian. The proposed boundary adjustment adjustment results in a plus or minus 3.16 hectare parcel and a plus or minus 61.49 hectare remainder. Lot 2 is developed with a farmstead and accessory buildings serviced by existing water and wastewater servicing infrastructure. Lot 1, the remainder is accessed by an existing approach from Township Road 244. Oh, pardon me. It is undeveloped, with a used for agricultural purposes with no servicing in place. Lot 2 is undeveloped. Pardon me, I got my notes mixed up. Lot 2 is accessed by an existing approach from Range Road 244. Lot 1 is accessed by 2 existing approaches from Range Road, Township Road 244. Pardon me. The proposal is consistent with the applicable statutory and non-statutory plans. The proposal is consistent with the agriculture policies within the MDP, which aim to minimize fragmentation and subdivision of agricultural lands and maximize continuous agricultural lands. In accordance with the Municipal Government Act, municipal reserve is not required as one lot is created from the quarter section. Administration is recommending that the Municipal Planning Commission approve subdivision application ST 2024-019, subject to the conditions noted in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move that the Municipal Planning Commission approve subdivision application SD 2024-019, subject to conditions 1 through 7. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none, I will call the vote. Member Laprise?
In favor.
Member Bigger?
In favor?
Member Eichert's in favor. Member Clausen?
In favor.
Member Kester?
In favor.
Member Larson?
In favor.
Member Link?
In favor.
That is passed. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.